how are you feeling about a historic day? It's sad, but I'm glad something's happening.
I think it's unprecedented.
It's not sad. What's sad?
It's sad that an American president.
Oh, that's sad.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's sad. An American
president. The fact that he's being called in for questioning, etc., and he's being indicted because he's committed certain crimes is not sad. That's American justice.
Is alleged to have committed crimes.
Alleged, yeah, of course.
Of course.
But again, it's in America, it's the first time in any of our lifetimes.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us could have ever really imagined this.
I imagined it. I imagined it. Yeah.
With him, no. I mean, with other,
with other presidents,
with other presidents.
Like, I would never think President Obama, would do something like this.
And even with Bush. I mean, as angry as we got with Bush, I don't think anybody
I don't think so.
thought that this was the direction we'd ever headed.
We did have Nixon. We had Nixon that, was able to get out of some things.
But even so, he had the sense to resign,
He had to
get out of the game.
That was the ladies of The View discussing, of course, the Trump indictment. I think it's very telling there, the remark that we could never imagine that this happening with Obama and with Bush. And the solemn nature they're discussing it. Look, he's being charged with a campaign finance violation. Political figures get charged with campaign, so it's not impossible to imagine because it actually happens all the time. Hillary Clinton was charged with a misdemeanor campaign finance violation. Yes, Trump, Bush and Obama and previous presidents were not targeted. We're not prosecuted with this same level of vigor. I think a lot of people watching would say that is a failing of the United States, that people who launched wars that destabilized the entire Middle East, I'm talking of Bush, although there was tremendous continuity in all his successors with these policies. Yes, they were never held accountable in any criminal sense, and that is, in fact, wrong.
Absolutely. You took the words out of my mouth. When she said Bush, I was like, ooh. Really? Yeah. Like, he didn't get held accountable.
But he's been rehabilitated in the eyes of many Democrats because he also does not like Trump.
Yeah,
That's all you have to do.
And he became friends with Michelle Obama. He gave her a mint during during some event.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. When I think about this, first of all, we have to understand that while we think it's unprecedented, we have to understand that other countries, their leaders have been indicted and actually gone to prison. If you're looking at Brazil, for example, Lula, who's the current president, spent 18 months in prison. Sarkozy just got convicted, and he's going through the appeals process. What you've got in Israel with Bibi Netanyahu, he's got a corruption trial going on. So the idea that powerful people can't be corrupt or make, bad choices and things that you can say are criminal. I mean, of course, Vladimir Putin is facing it on the international stage, something that many people think George W. Bush should have faced. So this idea that it's so unprecedented for a leader of a first world nation to be held accountable for misdeeds, I think is a stretch. I mean,
I'm absolutely for holding political figures, government figures accountable. I want more of them held accountable.
Yeah. John Edwards.
Well, but I don't want them, where I think agree with the criticism of what's being done now. I want them held accountable, but not by any means necessary because of very technical, procedural wrongdoing. I'm not saying campaign finance is entirely in that category, but in this specific, again, all the things Trump is facing, I think the election, the Georgia stuff is very serious.
Yeah.
This seems so much less serious and has so many complicating factors, including the statute of limitations, including that it's not even actually clear and necessarily proven to me that the payment that Michael Cohen made was illegal or counts as maybe it does, but
hush money in and of itself is not illegal.
Well, right, you can pay someone. I mean, are all during a campaign is anything you would spend money on is now a campaign expense. That seems to get a little dicey to me. I don't know.
Yeah, well, falsifying your business records, and particularly the issue about taxes, if he said that he was spending this on legal fees and it wasn't legal. They weren't legal fees. They had to do with something else.
Legal fees, but
I don't know. That's not a legal expense, And if you're writing that off on your taxes, I think that is a crime. I want leaders to be held to the same standard as the people that they lead. So, if a working class person can get in trouble for their taxes or for a campaign finance donation or whatever it is, if they can get in trouble for it, then I want to see the most powerful people in the world or in our country to be held to the same standard.
Well,
that's my whole thing.
No, I totally agree with that. Probably there are a lot of laws on the books that working people get caught up on, having to do with not campaign finance, but having to do with their taxes, certainly. And they get audited at a much greater rate. We keep giving the tax police, if we give the tax police more money because we want them to go after the wealthy violators of tax law, but of course the IRS said, well, that's difficult, and then they just go after more poor people.
Yeah, and I think that's problematic. So I really don't have a problem, with them going after a guy who flies around in a private jet with his name on the side of it. I wouldn't be mad if, the Canadian government went after Drake, if Drake, allegedly committed some sort of, offense. I just think
Drake, the pop star, the rapper, the actor. You got beef with Drake?
I don't have beef with Drake. I'm a fan.
Jason's coming for you, Drake.
No, I'm a fan of Drake. I'm a fan of Drake. But I will say this, I think powerful people should be held to the same standard. That's my whole thing, and I don't have a, so I wasn't one of these people that was like, this is such a solemn day. A former president of the United States has been held to account, and I'm like, John Edwards was a vice presidential nominee for one of the two major parties. You had Tom DeLay, what was he, Speaker of the House or whatever it was. Dennis Hastert, is it Dennis Hastert? It
was Dennis Hastert, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's, I won't say too much more.
There's bad stuff, right?
I want those guys to be held accountable, for their wrongdoing. I don't want power to be to get out of jail.
He was involved in child sexual abuse, very bad stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
I don't want anybody to get a pass because they have powerful connections or they're wealthy.
But Trump, a couple months ago, almost a year ago now, right, was the Mar-a-Lago raid, and I can't quite remember when that happened last year, over the documents he had. Yeah. And then it turned out that every political figure has a box of documents because there are too many documents that are marked classified, and it seems very insignificant to me. But everybody, liberal, Democratic media, went ballistic for that. They're like, this is such a serious, important crime, and he must pay for this. Then it turns out it's a very easy crime to inadvertently commit because.
But he didn't inadvertently do it. That's the difference.
I don't know that he didn't inadvertently do it. I think he didn't cooperate and give them back to the same degree that other political figures did, and I guess that's bad. But
the cooperation issue is the issue.
He's a combative. He's his own worst enemy.
These are my documents, and he defied subpoenas, and they did all of that. And again, maybe because of people that I've known who have actually seen real raids, I'm not sure that we can categorize that as a raid. A raid is what happened to Breonna Taylor. I would not call guys showing up in polo shirts and khakis knocking on your door. I wouldn't call that a raid. That's a search warrant. That's executing a search warrant.
Sure, there's a certain amount of, I get this way when I see conservative or Trump-supportive figures start to see some of the unfairness in the criminal justice system when they think it's being applied to Trump, and say, how could they do this to him? This is so wrong. To be like, you gotta read a book. This happens to people with a lot less power and influence and wealth than Trump every day, and you should, if you're concerned about warrantless spying and knocking down people's front doors and all that, we should reform these policies which are applied to non-Trump figures every day.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think Andrew Gillum, when he showed up in court, he was cuffed in court. I think, if a guy who's selling a dime bag on the corner is going to get cuffed and get fingerprinted and get a picture, and I know part of that, I think New York thought it would be mutually beneficial to not do that because, that gives, Donald Trump,
now
campaign fodder. And
now Trump people we're going to abolish the police. So
all right,
forget all
yeah,
that. It's all done.
that should work out for everybody, right?
More Rising right after this.